have not. They're dead. What about me? You do not find good men, right? Very much down. Have not. They're dead. Just time. And a minute. You do not find. You do not know. What about? And a minute. Have got. What about? Things are now in mush. We do not. You do not know pain. You do not know. I'm gonna. First, just time. And a minute. You do not find. Just ease through down my enemy. Have got. What about? Things are now in mush. We do not. You do not know pain. You do not know. Things are now in mush. We do not. You do not know pain. You do not know.
Hey folks, welcome. Hey folks, welcome. Oh, great. Hey folks, welcome. There we go. Oh, great. Turn down. Hey folks, welcome. There we go. Oh, great. Turn down. Hey folks, welcome. There we go. Oh, great. That just caught a endless loop there. Oh, great. That just caught a endless loop there. Oh, great. That just caught a endless loop there. Oh, great. That just caught a endless loop there. Oh, great. That just caught a endless loop there. Apparently my audio's caught in an endless loop. 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 Okay, let's see if this is still looping. Okay, let's see if this is still looping. Okay, let's see if this is still looping. It is still looping. Okay, let's see if this is still looping. It is still looping. Okay, let's see if this is still looping. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, let's see if this is still looping. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, let's see if this is still looping. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, let's see if this is still looping. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, let's see if this is still looping. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, let's see if this is still looping. I have no idea what's going on. Okay, let's see.
just time to fight. Just speed through down my enemy. Lose 500. We do not stop rising.
Okay, did that work? Okay, did that work? It's still looping on me. Did that work? It's still looping on me. Did that work? It's still looping on me. Did that work? It's still. We're just trying this by process of elimination. Okay, well apparently it's working now. Yay. My God, that was annoying. Get this back to be a full screen. Yeah, man, I know I had a bad echo there. Everything was caught in an endless loop. It's like I was resampling myself. Oh, don't know if you guys. Let's see. Can you see that? Yeah, it looks a little rusty there on the. Jeff, I don't pretend to understand what it is. Yeah, now it's okay. I will go ahead. Oh, boy. You know, if it's not one thing, it's another. However, I do have to say Nikon was really nice. They released this thing called a webcam utility. So now I'm actually using my DSLR as my webcam, just like I was before. But there's no more 30-minute timeout. Unfortunately, it also means that I have to autofocus everything. And I can't use some of the cool presets on it, but hey, whatever. It's much more convenient. Now, if only they would put that utility out for my Mac, then I'd really love them. And sometime earlier this week, there will be a lavalier mic coming, which means my sound will be fixed as well. Yeah, I look a little fuzzy there. So today, I just want to go through and it's all about getting all the hand sanding done on this piece that we've been working on. So I'd really like to get this done today. So I'm just starting out by hand sanding with 80 grit. Then I'm going to go to 150, 220, 320, 400, and then we'll see what it needs from there. Right now, I'm just trying to get any sort of scratches, deep scratches out. This is the part of knife making that you don't often see in broadcasts. Because let's face it, it's kind of tedious and boring. But still, the better of a finish you get on your piece, the nicer it's going to cut for you, the nicer it's going to look, obviously. But that performance, when you get something that's, you know, your bevel just is smooth and it, you know, it just comes down to that perfect edge. It's really going to make a big difference. No, this is actually, I did the heat treatment. That was I think that was the last broadcast. But I don't think I had any of you guys on from Germany. So you might have missed that one. But yes, you're right. Oftentimes, you know, taking it up to hand sanding at least to 120, 220 grit, that's really it's gonna make a huge difference in your heat treating as well. I only took it up to 120 grit, and then I realized that when I was forging out, I had actually forgot to put my touch mark in it. So I went ahead and put the touch mark in right before I normalized, and I just kind of dealt with some of the consequences. It was a shame because I had everything as straight as I wanted it. You know, all my nitpicking was done, and then I got it hot and I hit it with my touch mark, and of course, you know, you get deflection in your blade, and yeah, so I had to work around a lot of that, and plus I scaled the blade up pretty good. I had actually thought about using the molten salt tank, just because that would make this job a little bit easier on me. But, you know, it's a good 4.5, 5 hours just to get that tank up to temperature. Well, I got to be careful there. I'd have actually just drawn blood. Oh, I did. That's how you know that a knife is nearing completion, when you finally cut yourself on it. Oh well, I will not be sharpening this until after I get the wood scales done. Gee, why don't they ever show this on Forged in Fire? Are they saying the viewing public is not ready for this? I mean, if there's people that watch C-SPAN, I'm sure there's people that will watch hand sanding. I'm just looking for any deep scratches that I need to hit here with the lower grit before I go up. Pretty much like a sponge, huh? Yeah, if you go back, you're on YouTube. If you go back and you should be able to watch the, I think, what was that? Was that Friday? Yeah, it was Friday. Friday night that I did that. I was going to come in yesterday, and quite frankly, I just didn't feel like it. My son got into a car accident on Friday night, so it was just one of those days. Saturday just fell a little off. And he's fine. You know, we're going to have some bonding time and work on the car together, though. It's all cosmetic. So I'm just using a little bit of water with some dish detergent. Just to add a little bit of lubrication there. I'm sure right now my buddy Jeremy, who, well, he's a fellow bladesmith, he might end up tuning in here. Who knows? He might already be watching. He's probably doing the exact same thing today. I know he's working on a sword, a spy hander right now. I'm just using a piece of blade steel. It's just a piece that was a little too short to, you know, forge anything directly out of that I had in mind. And I'm just using that for the flat surface that it gives me. Allows me to essentially plane the steel. And I get a lot of my sandpapers in by the roll. That makes it convenient for just ripping off a piece. Oh, awesome. Awesome. I think I can read that. One of these days I'm going to adjust this. I just need to make that print a hair bigger for me. But yeah, I figured I'd move the one camera just to give you an idea as to, you know, what's going on here. But that flat backing just really allows me to go ahead and plane that off and get rid of any sort of, you know, when you're using a round contact wheel, the problem is that if it's not on, like, say, like on a surface grinder, it's going to chatter a little bit, and so you're going to notice waves in that steel. And so being able to just come across here as I'm doing with that flat back, and I'm just cleaning that steel up and trying to get rid of any sort of waves, any ripples, and also the deep scratch marks. There we go. Toss Lost that piece. I'm going to hold on to that other one. I'm going to grab a little bit of 150. Okay, well, it looks like my other camera has frozen up. Huh. Well then. Let's do this. I don't know why it froze up. This is an experimental driver that they released. So, a few little clicks. There we go. The audio might be off by a little bit, but there we go. Now you can see what I'm doing. Yes, Nate. Handstanding is definitely enjoyable. You'd like it a lot more if you were just sitting right here where I am. Welcome, Nate. We miss you here in the shop. It's about time you get out of Jersey. What liquid am I pouring onto the blade? It's just water with dish soap, dishwashing soap. Here in the States, you know, Dawn dish detergent. Something that you know cuts the grease. Of course, I can't read that. No, it's not an oil at all. Yeah, it keeps it from clogging up, as Nate just said. Nate actually works here in the shop. We just haven't seen him since we went on coronavirus lockdown. I've just been sitting here drinking beer by myself. This isn't so bad here in the summertime, but in the winter, your pant legs can get awfully soaked. And you step outside and, boy, that cold really sucks. So just kind of giving it a light pass, scalloping a little bit. For a knife that's going to be used, you know, in a culinary situation, I don't want to necessarily take it up to a mirror finish. I like to have more of a satin finish on there. But I still want, you know, all the hard work of making the Damascus, I still want that to, you know, pay off. I want it to be worthwhile. But, you know, when a knife's going to be used in the kitchen, gosh, you hit a bone, you hit something, you know, something hard, it's going to end up scratching. And, yeah, it just, you know, it sucks when you have a knife that's got like a mirror polish on it. All right, Nate, we'll see you later. Shoot me a text or something. Yeah, Nate's been trapped in Jersey with his kids. Normally he's up here every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. He does a lot of our really fancy leather work. He's really good at doing leather tooling. And perhaps, once he gets back up here, we'll start doing a few live streams with him doing some tooling on leather as well. We're moving along pretty good here. What's nice is if you take the time to do the lower grits properly, the higher grits are going to not take that much time. Still like to have a nice finishing pass where everything's kind of pulling the exact same way. That should etch up really nice. just got to be careful when you're not using a backer and you're coming up towards this point or the edge, and that's where that knife can really get you. I'm not too worried about, back here on the tang, mainly because it's going to get covered with wood. Plus, I kind of like it to be a little bit rough back there anyway. I like to give the epoxy someplace to hold on to. I don't know if in the grand scheme of things it really matters that much, but I have had pieces that, I've taken up to 400, 600 grit, and it seems like when you're trying to epoxy the handles on, they really slide around. Of course, it could all be psychosomatic, might all be in my head. This is not the paper that I normally use, but I was running low and I didn't feel like running to one of the big box stores. So I just got what was available at my local hardware store. Hey, it's Sunday, nothing's open. My local hardware store is also a deli, a gas station. So that's the only reason why they're open. It's such a nice feeling when you get down below 220. Just feel how smooth that knife is. That's good. My touch marks are really coming out too. I really kind of only sanded it with the belt grinder very lightly. I didn't really hit over here too much, just because I don't want to grind it out. But it's really coming out there with the hand sanding, so that's good. Now we'll Hit it with a little bit of 400. Let's see, what was that? Yeah, I'm about to finish the blade. And yes, Jeff, once I'm done with all this, I'm going to go ahead and give it the initial etches in the ferric chloride. Then I'm going to do my handle. And if I need to, I can always go back, say I put a little scratch or something on the blade, I can always re-etch it at that point. But what I don't want to have happen is I don't want to have, I don't really want to get the wood down into the ferric chloride because I don't want that wood to discolor by touching the acid. So I want to try to get it on there, you know, get the etch onto the steel first. And then I can go back and highlight or clean up as I need later. There you go, that's looking great. Yeah, also, Jeff, to go along with your question there, the better the sanding is right now, when I go ahead and etch it in the ferric chloride, the definition is going to come out so much clearer, so much more crisp. Yeah, FECL3. If you look on my YouTube channel, you'll actually see one of my recipes, or my recipe that I use for making ferric chloride. I mean, it might be easy for you guys to get in Germany, but here in the States, the one place that, you know, that sold it on a regular basis, that was essentially a place that you could walk into anywhere in the country and buy it, they ended up going bankrupt. So, I put a little bit of science together and came up with a recipe that I liked, that worked really well, that was simple to do, and so I shot a video on it, and a lot of other bladesmiths in the 5 years or so that I made that video, there's a lot of other bladesmiths using my instructions to make ferric chloride. It's got about 140,000 views, I think, on YouTube. So that's pretty good for a video just about making ferric chloride to etch knives. Stand up and check that out. You're having problems getting borax, huh? Well, here in the States, I guess we have huge deposits of it, so like literally any grocery store in the country Has it by the 5-pound box. Doing this side last because it seemed like I had a little bit less work to do on it. So always plan that out when you're doing this stuff. Be kind to your fingers. So I gotta say, it's so much nicer to have people joining me here in chat. I mean, granted, I could be sitting here watching something on Netflix. Just haven't found anything interesting lately. I got most of the big scratches out of the way. You know, I know guys that they'll actually finish their polishing up, especially if they're going for a nice satin finish. Yeah, they'll finish it up with a little bit of baking soda and a toothbrush, and you can really take this down far. That's the wrong grit. Oh, that's the wrong one. You know, if you're having problems getting borax in Germany, I don't know if they sell it there or not, but you could go to a welding supply store, and I bet you could find a flux there, like a powdered flux for stick welding or, you know, flame welding. Might even find it with different brazing solutions. And if the welding store employees know their thing, they'll be able to tell you exactly what it contains. We used to have a couple of farrier stores that sold a mixture of, I think it was borax and iron powder. Oh, what's that? So the problem with borax in the European Union. So they're making borax illegal? I mean, I wouldn't ingest it in the first place. That's I don't think it would kill you, but it's definitely not healthy for you. As a matter of fact, we use it here to get rid of things like roaches as well, or ants, fleas. Basically, it's really sharp to anything with an exoskeleton. And so it puts all these really fine cuts all over their bodies, and they end up dehydrating, drying out. Yeah, Jeff, all I use is 20 mule tee, man. There you go. There's my current box. $20 mule team is pure borax. My only complaint is that it went from $2.80 a box to like $3, or $5 and something a box. Which I guess, the 2 or 3 boxes a year, I don't really have a reason to bitch about it. Yeah, low cost, but hard to get. There's a lot of guys doing what they call dry welding. And so essentially they're using what we call kerosene, which I guess in the UK is, what is it, known as paraffin? Essentially like diesel fuel or heating oil. And so they're soaking, they degrease their pieces and then they soak it in the kerosene and pull it off and shake it off. I'm not saying they're throwing kerosene directly into their fire, but essentially they're cleaning it off with the kerosene and then going straight into the fire. And I guess that stops oxidation as well. And as long as you bring it up to your welding temperature fast, you're going to end up getting a nice, good, solid weld there. And then there's other guys that don't even bother with it. I don't think that borax is a miracle powder. I see far too many people thinking that it's glue and using way too much of it, which can actually hinder your weld in the first place. The biggest thing is being able to recognize the temperatures, and that includes being able to realize what it is for the particular environment that you're in. Because depending on the lighting in the shop, it's going to look a lot different than it would, say, outside under, dim sunlight or even bright sunlight. So, understanding what's actually going on there and being able to recognize those temperatures, to see to be able to look at the surface of the steel and realize that, you're hitting that 2350 degree mark. And you should be able to do it without flux, but if you have it, use it. I'd go onto like iForge Iron, or one of the other blacksmithing sites out there and do a little bit of research on dry welding or welding with kerosene. I've done the kerosene method when I used to do a lot of cable Damascus. Ammonium chloride, huh? Take a look at that really quick. I'm not sure what ammonium chloride, borax, or a water solution would do there. Personally, I'd want it as dry as possible, except for the kerosene that I was talking about. But yeah, I used to use the kerosene when I was doing cable Damascus. I'd take my pieces of cable that I was planning on welding up, and I'd actually soak them in the kerosene overnight. And then I'd fire up the coal forge in the morning, because it's a psychosomatic thing for me, but I just can't seem to weld cable in the gas forge. I know it's all in my head, but I'm really, really good at forge welding it in a coal forge. I'm sure if you held a gun to my head, I'd be able to forge weld it in the gas forge. I just don't like doing it, I guess. Depending on the cable grade, and composition that you're using, sometimes you want to take it a little bit hotter than the recommended temperatures to begin with. But you don't want to take it too hot, because at the same time, you don't want everything to just kind of blend together. I've done some cable Damascus that has come out with almost like a dragonfly wing pattern, and then I've screwed some up where, man, there's barely any pattern whatsoever in it. Yeah, well, that's the reason why I soaked my cable in kerosene. Yeah, well, it's essentially, I mean, it's like diesel fuel. The same thing that a lot of cars run off of, or big trucks. And, you can use that to degrease, your hands and everything else, really. But yeah, getting that grease out of that cable, they really don't want that stuff to rust up at all when it's on a crane. Just a little bit here on the tip yet. By all means, I'm not an expert on what all the kerosene does. I would highly recommend doing some research before just running out and trying it. But I recommend doing your own research before trying anything, really. coming out real nice and smooth. See if I can hand sand and drink a beer at the same time. Oh no, that takes talent right there. It's like patting the top of your head and rubbing your belly all at the same time. I mean, that's serious dad skills. Yeah, well, I can talk about just about anything. That doesn't make me an absolute authority on it, but I will gladly lend my information where I can. I've been doing this 25 years now, so I may have learned a thing or two. I'm going to save one of these pieces of 400 grit that I've already used on the blade. Just, you know, something that's a little smooth, a little spent. And I'm going to use that in between my etching. So I'm going to end up etching it for a couple of seconds and then pulling it out, lightly sand it, and then go back in. It'll probably be about 4 or 5 etches until I get to the coloration, you know, the amount that I want it to develop to. I like to go slow and actually watch what's happening. Although I have in the past already forgotten that I put knives in the acid, and that's made some very wonderful mistakes. Or as Bob Ross would say, happy little accidents. The only thing that sucks is, you know, somebody sees a piece and they're like, oh man, can you make another one like that? Like, man, I forget how I did this. This was a total mistake how it came out this way. Then you try to recreate it, and sometimes, you know, it's just something's just slightly changed. There's a small variable that, you know, isn't the exact same, and it just doesn't come out the exact same way. That's looking really good. Wish we had the high def camera up. Should still be able to see this on that little camera right ahead of me when I etch this. Forging blades is definitely therapeutic. Even this the whole hand sanding part, you know, there's something rather kind of cathartic about it. You just get into a groove, and you know you're watching something really really just kind of come about, something that's just kind of growing in front of your eyes. So I'm going to rinse this off just in clean water. Just hitting it with the sandpaper. It just in that short amount of time that I had it locked down to that piece of wood, the side that I sanded had started to oxidize. This goes to show you how fast rust can happen. Okay. Move a few things around. I'm going to bring this bucket over. Because everyone should have a 5-gallon bucket of ferric chloride. I do like to keep it a little agitated in here. Starting to come out pretty good. Now I'm just going to give it a light sand. Again, this is with that 400 grit that's pretty worn down. So let that sit for a moment. See if that comes out on the camera there. Nah, not so much. Oh wait, there we go. Starting to see it. Depending on the angle I hold it at. Again, I'm just sanding it very lightly. I'm not trying to take the metal away. What I'm trying to do is just clean it up to allow us to get a deeper etch. You can definitely see that piece of 1095 that we ran down the middle. Which is nice. All I want is for that 1095 to be down the center there to be the cutting edge. very lightly on this. But it's definitely starting to get darker. You know, it's developing that darker color with every consecutive etch that we're doing. Also going down the spine. Keep in mind, after I sand the handles and everything, I'm going to end up hitting this again in the acid. But that time, I'll have to degrease it first before I go ahead and etch it. Let's just let that go another minute or so in the acid. Oh, so how's the weather in Germany? I don't like that. Oh wait, I thought you were saying add some instant ferric. I've tried some of the instant ferric powder, and I wasn't all that keen on it. And I've heard of guys doing the instant coffee etch, and I haven't tried it. Another thing that'll actually make it go really dark as well is using brass black. So what you're telling me is it's pretty much just like Pennsylvania. Today, I think, is probably one of the coolest days it's been. It's a blustery 79 degrees. So 37 centigrade. Boy, now I got to do some math. My ex-wife's Canadian. You'd think I'd be familiar with that whole metric system. Oh yeah, it's definitely coming out a lot darker now. See if I can get this to start showing the pattern off. Yeah, basically every time that we just give this a light sand, you know, the nickel steel etches at a different rate than what our high carbon etches at. Although technically the nickel steel's a high carbon steel as well, but our 15N20 doesn't etch at the same rate as our 1095. So a lot of what we're doing is actually polishing up those raised layers of the 15N20. I just don't want to take it so deep that I start feeling it. I've done that with knives before in the past. The problem is that if you do etch it too deeply, you're going to start feeling that roughness along the cutting edge as well. So now instead of using the 400 grit, I'm going to take one of the more mild abrasives that I have here in the shop, which is my thumb. And I'm just pulling across there, etching it up a little bit. Again, being careful not to catch myself on the point here, the tip. And ferric chloride's mild enough. I mean, at least for me, I don't notice it when it's on my hands. Other people have said, well, it definitely tingles. I'm just not that sensitive to it. That being said, I turned around and washed my hands off. I'm not as dumb as I pretend to be sometimes. It's coming out good. We'll give it one more etch. I wasn't sure how I'd like this this low layer count. Remember, I'm only at 73 layers on this, and I don't normally mess with Damascus unless I'm going, 120 layers or higher. Jeff, it's not my problem I don't feel things. That Canadian ex-wife I was talking about, she took all my feelings in the divorce. I've actually got a great picture from like 6 years ago when my daughter was born, almost 6 years ago now, and it's basically her hands 5 minutes after she was born, holding my fingers, which are these rough blacksmith hands. One of these days, I'm gonna get that blown up as a big 3-foot poster for my office. Is looking pretty good. Just a real quick. I'm not putting any pressure on this whatsoever. I want to give a little bit of texture to it. I really like it when your etch comes out looking sort of like having the same kind of qualities that a charcoal drawing has. I just like that look. Other guys, want something that looks really, uniform and exact. Time to grab some nicotine. Let's rinse it off. It's where I want it. quick dip. I'm just going to keep it agitated as I'm putting it back into the acid. There we go. Years past, I've actually had an air hose, a bubbler from a aquarium running into my acid. The problem is that the air stones that diffuse it and create all those nice fine bubbles that, basically keep the acid mixed up. The problem is they tend to dissolve in ferric chloride rather quickly. What I need to do is get one of my machinist buddies to make me a fake stone out of stainless steel or something. Something that will still diffuse all the air and keep everything circulating. That looks pretty good. Just light little sand here. You got no pressure on that whatsoever. There we go. That looks great. Let me hit that with some oil. I'll show it to you guys. Just looking for a bottle of 3-in-1 oil. Where'd that go? Somebody moved it somewhere. That's how it works here in the shop. Either that or I knocked it down on the ground somewhere. I've got a case in the back room, so let me grab some more. It's a nice thing. Always make sure you keep a case of oil around. Here, I want to be careful where I'm putting that oil. I don't want to get it back into the tang because it'll stop the epoxy from being able to adhere. And with this particular knife, I'm not doing a what we consider like a real mechanical connection. Not using Corby bolts or anything like that. I'm just using pins, and those pins are not getting upset. They're not actually like forming any sort of mechanical compression there. All they're doing is stopping, what we call lateral force, in case the knife happens to get jarred or dropped or something along those lines. But I'm just see if that comes out. Takes me a minute here. I've got a delay. I mean, you're not seeing super high definition there on this camera, but you can definitely tell that there is a pattern in that blade. I'll take some close-ups and I'll end up putting that on my on the Instagram page. Question is, which one of my Instagram pages is it going to end up on first? Is it going to end up on my personal page because I totally intend on using this in the kitchen? Or is it gonna end up on Underhill Outdoors, or is it gonna end up on Underhill Forge? I mean, I'm sure eventually it'll end up on both. But then I'll be able to get some nice close-ups and really show off what this pattern's doing. The etching looks great. So I really want to make sure that the oil's covering everything that it needs to. I also, a really big thing was, I wanted to make sure that all that moisture, from rinsing it off, I wanted to make sure that all that moisture's gone before I put the oil on there. If you don't do that, what's going to happen is it's going to end up oxidizing, and even if it doesn't look as though there's any sort of water on there, you'll start noticing some browning or some yellowing from that oxidation underneath the oil. So now, we're not sharp, so when I do sharpen this blade, that's when I will very carefully degrease the blade, and I'll probably do another 1 or 2 etches yet. And who knows, I may even try that instant coffee thing. Like I said, I've heard of guys doing it. As a matter of fact, one of the guys on the, the Knife Talk podcast? I think they were talking about it. This is probably back in December or something. Oh, and this is why I don't have any nice shirts. So, move this a little bit. What do I do with my phone? Since the other camera seems to be all frozen there. There we go. Move this back to where it needs to be. And instead of having that light shining directly into the camera, raise it up and tilt it down a little bit. There we go. Well, cool guys. I guess I've been at this now. I don't even know how long we've been going. I think I started right around 4 o'clock. So it's probably been an hour or so that I've been working on it. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and in the meantime, I'll end up grabbing the wood that we're going to use for the handle, which is this really nice piece of Cerakote. So that's going to be my knife handle material, and I'm going to grab something to eat, and I will be back in probably about an hour or so, and hopefully I'll get to figure out what's going on with the Nikon camera, so we don't have to use the little IP secondary cameras here in the shop. So thanks guys for watching, and I'll be back in about an hour or so. And I know, you know, for those of you in Germany, it might be a little late in an hour for you to catch up with us, but it'll be on YouTube. You can definitely go ahead and watch it. Wait until morning. Do it at work. So I'll be back in about an hour, guys. Thanks again for watching.